This right here is my iPhone X. I've had it since 2017 when it first came out, and I've been a long time iOS user, but this is no longer the phone I use as a daily driver. Instead, I've been rocking this guy right here. This is the ROG Phone 2, Asus's follow-up to last year's ROG Phone. A gaming phone, yes, there is such a thing. This is a phone that does a lot really well. A few things I wish it actually did better, but overall, it offers a solid value for gamers and non-gamers alike. Is it worth it? I think it is, but let's have a closer look. This video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Ever since migrating to a gaming phone, I've been sinking a lot of my free time into mobile gaming, and let me tell you, it doesn't get much better than this. Raid Shadow Legends is a full-fledged console-quality turn-based RPG with a surprisingly deep story, stunning 3D graphics, top-notch voice acting, tons of characters, and a massive amount of content to keep you coming back for more. There's just so much to sink your teeth into right here. There's a reason Raid is one of the top 3 ranked RPGs on the Google Play Store. They're also adding new champions every month, which constantly changes the way you play the game, keeping things fresh. Also, there are progression rewards giving you extra stuff to play around with just for completing missions. Check this out. If you complete all of them, you get the Arbiter, a super powerful legendary champion to kick ass with. Just look at the detail on these character models. If 10 years ago you told me a game like this would run on a phone, I would think you're crazy. There's PvP, which I absolutely love because I'm all about that social gameplay with my buddies, and the mobile nature means Raid Shadow Legends is always within my reach to play for 5 minutes and beat a quick mission, or to sink hours and hours into while I unlock all the goodies. So don't wait, stop everything and go grab Raid Shadow Legends. Oh yeah, it's free and it's great. Why do you think it's gotten almost 15 million downloads in the last 6 months? Go to the video description, click on the special links, and you'll get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as part of the new player program to start your journey. You can find me there under the screen name izzynobre. Good luck, and I'll see you on the battlefield. Now that my bills have been paid, let's go back to the video. Alright, as I was saying, the ROG Phone 2. Now, right out of the gate, I have to say, though I was given this phone free of charge by Asus during their launch event in Taiwan this summer, thank you so much, Asus. Love you guys. They didn't ask me to make this video. I'm not being paid by them. I'm not a brand ambassador or anything like that. These are my actual thoughts after using this phone for a while. I actually did migrate from my iPhone X to this phone, and I've been using it exclusively for the last few weeks. So all of my thoughts here, good and bad, are my actual thoughts on this thing. They're going to see this video at the same time you guys see it. They don't have to pre-approve this video or anything. Just, I wanted to throw that out there. Anyway, now that that's all out of the way, let's actually talk about the ROG Phone 2. And I guess I should start with specs. The ROG Phone 2 rocks a 6.59-inch display with a resolution of 1080 by 2340. It has a ridiculous 12 gigs of RAM. When it comes to storage, the ROG Phone 2 has you covered as well. You can fit half a terabyte worth of stuff in this bad boy. And it's sporting the Snapdragon 855 Plus processor, which is pretty much brand new. You also get a ridiculous 6,000 milliamp hour battery that is pretty much unheard of in a phone like this. The screen has a refresh rate of 120 Hertz, which is amazing, though not a lot of applications are using that just yet, but I suspect that might become the standard in the future. So it's nice that it's future-proof that way. Rounding things off, we have that Adreno 640 GPU running at 700 megahertz. It's a hefty boy, coming in at 240 grams or 8.47 ounces. As for the actual dimensions of the body, this is a pretty big phone, coming in at 171 millimeters by 77.6 here at the top, with a thickness of 9.5 millimeters. As I mentioned, it is a pretty hefty phone, but that makes sense when you take into account that 6,000 milliamp hour battery. I am happy with that trade-off. It's thick, it's heavy. Every time I hand this phone to somebody, they notice it right away, but we've been saying for a very long time, there's no point in making these phones thinner and thinner every year. Most people, I feel, would sacrifice that slim profile for extra battery life, and I gotta tell you, I am perfectly happy with that huge battery. The ROG Phone 2 has Android 9 and it has that ROG Asus flavor on top, which I'm not a huge fan of, so I turned it off. I like the pure Android experience far better. Oh yeah, this is a dual SIM phone, which is not super common in North America, but in Latin America, Brazil, like Asia, this is all the rage. One interesting feature is that in the back here, you have that RGB light. Perhaps a little extravagant, and I gotta be completely honest with you, at first I wasn't really a fan of how bold this phone is. It's like, it has that gamer aesthetic that we're used to seeing in gaming computers, gaming laptops, and to be completely honest, I didn't care for it at first, but now I actually embrace it. Phones have been boring black rectangles for so long that I actually really appreciate how much this stands out. So much so that even though I use a case on my day, oh, let's get that out of the frame. Even though day to day I use a case, I like to actually take this out without the case, especially in a social situation where you're gonna be taking pictures and stuff. This catches people's eyes. They're always asking, what case is that? And I say, no, this is part of the phone, and I explain about the phone. For somebody who loves talking about tech, that's a nice little conversation starter. And of course, if I don't feel like drawing the extra attention, I can always turn that right off. Of course, we have to talk about cameras because cameras are a really important feature for a lot of people. So we got two cameras here in the back, which is pretty much the new standard. You got a 48 megapixel shooter with an aperture of 1.8, and then you have the 13 megapixel camera right next to it with an aperture of 2.4, which is ultra wide. I believe it's this one is the ultra wide? I can't tell. Oh, by the way, I should mention, I actually cracked the glass right here and I've been really heartbroken ever since. That's why I've been using a case now. It's a glass here in the back, as you can imagine. I gotta say, the camera is probably the least impressive aspect of the ROG Phone 2. It's basically the same cameras that Asus put in their Zenfone 6 model, but it's not that great. Under decent light conditions, you're gonna take fine pictures, but under low light, and I know that that's not saying much because most cameras don't perform really well under low light, but I feel like the photos I got out of my iPhone 10 actually look a little bit better color saturation. They're not as grainy under low light, so overall, I feel like the iPhone 10 still has better cameras. This is something I would love to see improved in a future model. The ROG Phone 2 has very interesting design features, like, for instance, it has a secondary USB-C charging port here on the side, and as you can tell, it's double. Now the reason is, this one is an actual regular USB-C port that you can use to charge the device or to plug to your computer to transfer your videos or whatever. This one you can't use for that, and you actually can't put a USB cable in here. The reason for this dual arrangement here is because you can actually use accessories with the ROG Phone 2, and Asus offers a big line of accessories for this phone, more than any other phone I've ever seen. I've actually been given the full line too, which I intend to show in a future video. Out of the box, you're going to be using that with the Aero Active Cooler. Mine is a little bit dirty because I've been using it a lot, which is this fan that snaps to the back of the phone like so and connects to the bottom right there, and then it cools both the phone and your fingers because it's going to be blowing air out of the side here. Oh yeah, and this light here, that actually works too. Let's do that, and there you go. Not sure if it's picking up really well by the camera there, but see. Perhaps a little too showy for most people, but like I said, I personally have come to appreciate that in social situations. I find myself turning that on. All right, let's take this thing out. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. When you snap this thing here, you get an extra charging port right here and a headphone jack, which the phone has. Remember those? Remember headphone jacks? That's one of the things about this phone being unapologetically thick. It can afford to put an actual headphone jack there. And though I don't really use wired headphones anymore, I like seeing that. I like the option to have that. So if I'm watching a movie on a plane with somebody, I can use one of those little splitters and we can both listen to the audio. Speaking of which, I guess I didn't touch on that. The ROG Phone 2 has two front-facing speakers here that are really loud and make for a great movie watching experience. Oh, one more thing I didn't mention. It has a fingerprint scanner right underneath the glass there, which is nice and elegant. In the refresh rate, you can change here. It can go up to 126 hertz, which is crazy fast. Now, you're not going to, let me see if you can spot that. I'm going to use my iPhone as contrast here. Let me turn down the brightness a tad. And as you can see, no SIM because I actually did migrate from this phone to the ROG Phone. Now, this is pretty impressive to people who have been following me for a long time because I have a lot, and I mean a lot of phones. Like, because of my work on YouTube, companies send me all kinds of phones. Like, just to give an example, these are some of the ones that I have here. I haven't even opened some of these. There's like a OnePlus 5 here. There's a OnePlus 6 somewhere. There's like, oh my god, I almost dropped it. Okay, like these are just the ones that I care to like show. Like I have a lot of phones, and people who follow me, usually they will see me posting pictures and I'll cover the phones and I'll do unboxing videos and all these things. And people have always asked me, why are you still using boring iPhones when you have access to so many different phones? And that's why, because no phone has gotten my attention quite like the ROG Phone 2. So as I was saying, this is at 120 hertz, and this is, I believe the iPhone 10 is 60 hertz. Now, I'm not sure, I shoot these videos in 29.97 frames per second, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to spot this, but in real life, this is jarring. The difference is night and day. This is buttery smooth, like you see every frame of animation as the icons scroll, and this thing is like, it feels like it's, you know, like, it's quite hard to put it into words, but it feels slow and staggered, and like it's not actually, you know, like it's a massive difference. Now, of course, if you have the display refreshing 120 times a second, that's going to drain that battery faster. So I find myself just leaving it at 90. 90 is good enough. And then if I'm playing a game that supports that, I'll turn that on. Another feature that was really what made me decide to use this phone on a day-to-day basis are these things right here. Perhaps you can see because the contrast is not great right there. These right here, I'm having a hard time getting the camera to focus, but these are what Asus calls air triggers. There's one on the left-hand side and one on the right-hand side right here. These two are capacitive areas on the side of the phone that detect your touch. Now, obviously nothing's happening here because I'm not in a game, but once you're in a game, those kick in and you can map those functions to any area of the game. So I've been playing a lot of Call of Duty Mobile. In fact, that's the reason why the channel wasn't updated for like 3 weeks. And what I have is I have this to aim, like right here on the left hand side, and this to shoot, which is a closer experience to what you'd find on a console. So you're not having to move your fingers around to aim and shoot, which makes the game, like I mentioned, a lot closer to an actual gaming experience on a console with an actual controller. Playing Call of Duty was what made me decide to migrate to this phone as my daily driver. Be able to pull this thing out of my pocket, hit up my friends on Telegram, and within minutes we're shooting each other in the face in Crash. As silly as that may sound, this was a massive improvement to my quality of life. I love being able to pull this thing out and play an online first-person shooter with 9 of my buddies wherever I am. You guys know how much I appreciate portability, so this is huge for me. Basically, this is a kick-ass phone that delivers an unparalleled performance with an outrageous battery life to boot. I honestly love this phone. There are only 3 things I don't really appreciate, and I hope Asus addresses this in a future model. First, this phone is not waterproof, and I understand that there are engineering challenges to making a phone that performs like this and is obviously going to expel as much heat as this does during heated, pun intended, gaming sessions. It has vents on the side here to help dissipate that heat, so obviously that's going to conflict with sealing the whole thing up to make it waterproof. I understand that. But I would have liked if they were able to figure out a way to make this waterproof. I feel just much more at ease when I have a phone that I know I don't have to worry about splashes or dropping it in water or what have you. The other thing is no induction charging. There's a lot going on in the back of the phone, so obviously they couldn't put that in here. It's one of those things that I, just like waterproofing, I thought was useless, but once you get used to a phone that has that, going to one that doesn't is a little upsetting. Like with my iPhone, I bought all these Qi induction charging platforms, and I can just have them all over the place. It used to be I'd come home, just drop my phone on one of those, and then not worry about, you know, looking for a cable and doing all this. It's just put it down on my desk, put it down on my nightstand, and it's charging. So that was very convenient. I miss that very much. I would love if the future model would have that. And finally, like I mentioned, the cameras. For a phone that performs at this level, like this is an outrageous phone. Those specs, the battery life, everything about this phone is crazy. It's super state-of-the-art. But the cameras are not that great. They're not horrible, but I would like to see performance on par with what I was used to with my iPhone. They're not terrible cameras, but there is room for improvement there. And this is the ROG Phone 2. This is a solid device, a little hefty, a little big, like I mentioned, but that extra battery life, the performance, the air triggers, all the accessories, which I intend to show in a future video. This is a killer phone. I am very impressed with what Asus was able to bring to the table with this. And like I said in the very beginning, though it is ostensibly visibly a gaming phone, this offers an amazing value for non-gamers alike because, like I said, that performance is crazy. This is as future-proof as it gets. Though it's a niche product, I really hope this phone is very successful because I want to see an ROG Phone 3. I want them to make this even better. But it should tell you a lot that this phone pulled me away from Apple for good. And that's the ROG Phone 2. I understand that to most people, gaming phones seem like kind of a gimmick, but the value that this thing brings to the table, it makes it a very interesting proposition, even for people who aren't really looking to play games on their phones that much. And I like to see products that push the industry forward in a very bold way. I'm just so bored of the same old monotonous black rectangles we get year in, year out. I am happy that there's somebody out there making something that stands out. And that's it. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please consider dropping me a like. That helps the channel out like you wouldn't believe. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell because YouTube sucks at letting you know I put out new content. Follow me on social media, please. I'm very active on both Twitter and Instagram, and people who follow me know this. I'm always so thrilled to talk to you guys about tech or whatever the hell you want to talk about. And that's all the time I have for today. I'm Izzy, and I'm done.